Project Management Professional Training Session 16. Closing. To most of us, it may be common sense that every start has a finish. A project that has been started will have an end. As I explained in Chapter 1, people were doing projects even when there was no field of project management. The underlying philosophy of project management is to perform projects deliberately, that is, to plan them and to monitor and control them and so forth. Finishing a project deliberately means finishing it in a controlled way, not just letting it finish even when it's cancelled. The main elements of a successful project closure include ensuring that all the planned work is completed, the planned outcome has been delivered and transitioned to the appropriate party, the project or phase information is archived, organizational, the project is reviewed, and team resources are released. Closing the project. PMP exam objectives. What it really means. 5.1 Obtain final acceptance of the project. Deliverables. Obtain final acceptance of the project deliverables from relevant stakeholders in order to confirm that project scope and deliverables were achieved. 5.2 Transfer ownership of deliverables. Transfer ownership of deliverables to the assigned stakeholders. To most of us, it may be common sense that every start has a finish. A project that has been started will have some kind of ending. As I explained in Chapter 1, people have been doing projects since before there was a field of project management. The underlying philosophy of project management is to perform projects deliberately, that is, to plan them, to monitor and control them, and so forth. Finishing a project deliberately means finishing it in a controlled way, not just letting it finish even when it's cancelled. That's right. Whether complete or cancelled, a project needs to be properly closed. The closing efforts are coordinated by the integration management process called close project or phase. As you will see in this chapter, during its closure, the project meets itself from start to end in the self-assurance and review mode to ensure that everything planned has been done and been done according to the plan, as well as for a general review of the whole project. So, the core issue in this chapter is how to properly close a project. In search of an answer, we will explore 3 avenues: the big picture of the project closure in the context of the whole project, core project closure, and project review and lessons learned. Closing the project, big picture. As mentioned earlier, the closing efforts are coordinated by an integration management process called close project or phase. The big picture of this process in context of the whole project is presented in Figure 15.1. As you can see, it involves project elements from project charter to procurement documentation, from business documents and requirement documentation to quality report and risk report, and so on. Of course, all of this involvement is around the project deliverables, which, after their acceptance has been ensured by the customer, need to be transitioned to the appropriate party. This involvement is necessary to ensure that everything planned has been done according to the plan so as to meet the project objectives tied to the organization's need to close each project element properly, and to review the whole project to learn from it. As shown in Figure 15.1, the project deliverables have already been verified through the control quality process and accepted through the scope verification process, but still need to go through the final transition to the appropriate party, such as the customer or the sponsor. In other words, the project needs proper closure. Performing project closure. Closing the project means finalizing all activities across the project by using the close project process. The formal name of the project closure process is close project or phase because it can also be used to close a phase in a multi-phase project. Project closure includes ensuring that all the planned work has been completed, the planned outcomes have been delivered and transitioned to the appropriate party, the project or phase information has been archived, the project has been reviewed, and team resources have been released. You also need to determine and coordinate the procedures required for verifying and documenting the project deliverables. The items that describe what the project was planned to deliver and what it has actually delivered would be the obvious inputs to the process of closing the project. Table 15.1 presents the close project or phase process in terms of input, tools and techniques, and output. Tip: not only the completed projects, but also the terminated projects must be formally closed using the processes of the closing process group. Table 15.1. The close project or phase process: input, tools and techniques, and output. Input, tools and techniques. Output: 1. Project management plan. 2. Project charter. 3. Business documents. Business case. Benefit management plan. 4. Project documents. Milestone list. Basis of estimates. Requirement documentation. Project communications. Quality report. Quality control. Measurements. Risk report. Assumptions log. Change log. Issues log. Risk register. Lessons learned register. 5. Accepted deliverables. 6. Agreements. 7. Procurement documentation. 8. Organizational project assets. 1. Expert judgment. 2. Data analysis. Document analysis. Regression analysis. Trend analysis. Variance analysis. 3. Meetings. 1. Final project outcome. Transition. 2. Final report. 3. Project document. Updates. Lessons learned. Register. 4. Organizational process. Assets update. Input to the close project process. You need a list of project deliverables that have been verified through the Verify Scope process and will go through the transition procedure. The project management plan contains guidelines on how to close the project. These and other input items are discussed in the following list. 2 business documents and project charter. The business case document and the benefits management plan document are used to verify if the deliverables are aligned with the business need and if the expected benefit would still justify the project that has been executed. The project charter document is needed to verify if the project success criteria and approval requirements have been met. Agreements and procurement documentation. These will be needed to verify the fulfillment, to use in a lessons learned session, and to close the contract. Project management plan. This defines how to close the project and will be useful in establishing the project closure procedure. The project management plan is also used in verifying and accepting the project deliverables because it explains what deliverables are expected. Note, however, that they have already been checked by the Validate Scope process and their quality has been verified by the Control Quality process, both of which belong to the Monitor and Control process group. Project documents. As you can imagine, we need quite a few project documents in this process for the purposes of verification, compliance, completion, evidence, evaluation, lessons learned session, and archiving. For example, we need the issues log to verify that there is no open issue, basis of estimates to evaluate how the estimates compared to the actual results regarding items such as durations, cost, and resources, requirements documentation as evidence of compliance, and change log for lessons learned and archiving. Other examples may be the assumptions log, lessons learned, milestone list, project communications, quality control measurements, quality report, and risk register documents. Accepted deliverables. This refers to the deliverables that have been verified through the Validate Scope process, discussed in Chapter 13. That means these deliverables meet the scope requirements acceptance criteria and are accepted by the customer or sponsor. In the case of a phase or cancelled project, these may also include incomplete deliverables. Such deliverables may be represented here by approved product specifications, delivery receipts, work performance documents, and so on. Organizational process assets. These can include project closure guidelines or requirements, for example, regarding product validation and acceptance criteria, final project audits, project evaluations, contract closure, and knowledge transfer. Also, you can learn from the historical information what kind of project documents you need to archive and in what detail you want to review the project to gather and store lessons learned. Your organization may also have a transition criteria or procedure on handing the product of the project to the appropriate party. These input items provide information about what the project was supposed to deliver and what it has delivered. You use this input and some tools and techniques to carry out the project closure. Caution! It's important to understand the flow of project deliverables through different processes. They are generated by the direct and manage project work process, verified through the quality control process, accepted by the customer through the validate scope process, and transitioned to the appropriate party through the close project or phase process. Tools and techniques for the close project process. The tools and techniques used for closing the project are data analysis, expert judgment, and meetings. Data analysis may use techniques such as document analysis, regression analysis, trend analysis, and variance analysis. Document analysis refers to using the documents to obtain or extract the information relevant to this process, such as organizational assets improvement, lessons learned, and knowledge archived for future projects. Regression analysis is used to determine the relationship between different project variables and how such relationships impact the project outcome. That information will be useful for future projects. The other two techniques, trend analysis and variance analysis, are stated in Table 15.1. Expert advice may be obtained on topics related to closing the project. There will be lots of meetings regarding the project closure activities, such as close the contract, validate the exit criteria, confirm the acceptance of deliverables, evaluate the stakeholders' satisfaction, hold lessons learned sessions, wrap up, and celebrate. Study Checkpoint 15.1. Q1. Name the processes used to generate A. Lessons learned register. B. Lessons learned. Q2. For what do we need data analysis during the close project process? Caution! The formal name of the process to close the project or a phase of it is close project or phase. However, like other processes, I also refer to it by informal names, such as close project or project closure. You should know the formal name of each process and then be able to recognize from context when it's being referred to in an informal way. This will help you in the exam, and more importantly in real-world project management. Output of the close project or phase process. Project closure accomplishes three main things: completion of all the closing procedures, final acceptance of the project deliverables by the customer, including handing over the deliverables to the appropriate party, and reviewing the archiving of project-related documents. This is reflected in the following output items. Final project outcome transition. This means that the project outcome, i.e., product, service, or result, has been delivered and transitioned, handed over, to the appropriate party. The appropriate party could be, for example, another organization or a different department or group in the same organization that will maintain and support it throughout its life cycle. Final report. This presents a brief review and summary of different project aspects in the context of project performance. For example, the project aspects could include scope, cost, and quality objectives. The report can state the criteria used to evaluate the scope and cost, whether that criteria was met by the final outcome, and what the reasons were for any variances. Similarly, it could include what criteria were used to evaluate the overall project quality and product quality, and reasons for quality variances. Moreover, the report can summarize the procedure and results of final project outcome validation, updates of lessons learned register and organizational process assets. The project closure process updates project documents and the organizational process assets. Project documents. The lessons learned are entered into the lessons learned register. They can cover any project-related topics. Any other project document may also be updated. Every ongoing document has at least one update, the final version. Organizational process assets. documents and lessons learned from the project are added to the organization's knowledge database for various purposes, such as for the record, to help with future projects, and to support the product or service from the project under closure. This includes all types of important documents, from project documents such as the project management plan and documents regarding scope, schedule, cost, baseline, etc., to documents about lessons learned and knowledge accumulated throughout the project life cycle, and from project closure documents regarding scope validation, agreements, and transfer and customer acceptance of the final product to operational and support documents such as those needed in order to operate and support the product or service from the project under closure. Study Checkpoint 15.2. Q1. What is the first process you perform in managing a project? Q2. What do you need before you can begin initiating your project? The three most important takeaways from this chapter are as follows. Before the close project process is performed, the project deliverables must be already verified through the quality control process and then validated for their scope by the validate scope process to ensure that the planned scope and quality have been met. In this process, the deliverables are transitioned to the appropriate party, such as the customer or the project sponsor. Once all processes and activities are completed, documents are properly closed and archived, and the project is reviewed to learn lessons for the future. Summary. All projects, big or small, terminated or completed, should go through the closure stage, which involves ensuring that all the planned work has been completed, the planned outcome has been delivered and transitioned to the appropriate party, the project or phase information has been archived with the organization, and team resources have been released. Before the close project process is performed, the project deliverables must be already verified through the quality control process and then validated for their scope by the validate scope process to ensure that the planned scope and quality have been met. The procurements are also already accepted in procurements contracts closed by the control procurement process, but procurement documentation is used to ensure the accuracy and completeness of the procurements. In the close project process, all verified validated deliverables are transitioned to the appropriate party, such as the customer or the project sponsor. The same process is used to close a project or a phase of it and is formally called the close project or phase process. Once all processes and activities have been completed, documents are properly closed and archived, and the project is reviewed to learn lessons for the future. Road ahead, a long and winding road of project management, including possible exams. Good luck on the journey. Exams I view. Comprehend. You, the project manager, manage the project closure. Project deliverables, an output of the direct and manage project work process, are verified for quality by the control quality process. Before going through project closure, the verified deliverables must be checked for their scope through the validate scope process and accepted. The deliverables accepted by the validate scope process then become a major input item to the close project or phase process. Look out. The lessons are learned throughout the project by performing the manage project knowledge process and not only at the end of the project or phase. Not only the completed projects, but also the terminated projects must be formally closed using the processes of the closing process group. The same process is used to close both a phase of a project and the project itself, close project or phase. Memorize. The lessons learned document is the output of two processes, manage project knowledge and close project or phase. Project deliverables are generated by the direct and manage project work process, verified through the quality control process, accepted by the customer through the validate scope process, and transitioned to the appropriate party through the close project or phase process. The customer or project sponsor signs the final project outcome acceptance and closure documents. Review questions. 1. Walking down the hallway, you hear a program manager saying to a project manager, "You need the performance reports to run this process." Which process is the program manager likely referring to? A. Monitor and control project work. B. Perform integrated change control. C. Close project or phase. D. Evaluate performance. 2. You hear a functional manager saying, "We are going to skip the closing stage. There is no need for formalities in this project, it's a total waste of time." For which kind of projects is it appropriate to skip the closing stage? A. Technical projects. B. Small and simple projects. C. Cancelled project. D. No projects. 3. Which of the following stakeholders can authorize the closure of a project? A. Project manager. B. Customer. C. Project sponsor. D. Functional manager. 4. You are preparing to close a project you have been managing. Which of the following is not an input to the close project or phase process? A. Project charter. B. Project management plan. C. Project deliverables. D. Project benefit management plan. 5. Which of the following are not an activity of the close project process? A. Review the project. B. Ensure all processes are complete and closed. C. Transfer the project product to the customer. D. Verify the quality and scope of the product. 6. Which of the following are not an activity of the close project process? A. Close all procurements. B. Ensure all processes are complete and closed. C. Transfer the project product to customer. D. Ensure that all contracts are closed. 7. You are in the process of closing the stem cells RS project. Which of the following is not an output of the close project or phase process? A. Lessons learned. B. Transition of project product. C. Verified deliverables. D. Closure of project documentation.